This shirt, incidentally, was a present from Ronald Reagan. That was it? Oh my God. Oh God. Oh God. This is really, this is, oh boy, this is not comfortable at all. This is, so ladies and gentlemen, this, what are you doing? Don't take a picture. This is,
All right. Hey everyone, it's John Ross from this is TJRS, the John Ross Show, broadcasting from my one bedroom, one bathroom apartment in Midtown, Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, I knew I wasn't gonna get through without laughing. That was a clip from today's episode of the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where Sam revealed a what appeared to be a Guardians of the Galaxy tank top, which he agreed to wear in raising funds for refugees on parole that would be able to get services in the United States. And I don't know what their fundraising goal was. I have the video on view. So. Oh man. Okay. I'm just gonna. This is. Yeah, I actually said on Twitter that I was gonna start off with this. You know what? I'll just show the rest. There he goes, Flex. I'm out. Okay. All right. That's enough of that. So, oh God. Good old Sam Cedar. Good old Sam Cedar. Can't live without him, can we? So, well, I'd tell you how my day was today. Work from home due to the inclement weather that we've had here in town today. And before I get off into talking about stuff in the news, although to be quite honest, I was so laser focused on that Cedar, on that episode of Cedar, like everyone else. It didn't really bother as much to look up anything important in the news, because there's a whole ton of stuff, and close that out. Oh crap! There we go. There's a ton of stuff going on, and just kind of just going through the day, because it is Friday after all. It's the day before. It's Labor Day holiday, which is of course the unofficial in the summer season. And what are y'all gonna do? How do you spend your Labor Day weekend? I spend it on days like this doing homework. Mic situated. There we go. I spend it doing homework, which isn't always good. You know. So a couple things coming up. Tomorrow, I think I should talk to him. So tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, or not Eastern, but Central, we'll be talking with Charlie R.C. Roberts, one of the founders of Barosia Enemy on Substack. On Substack. And what are we going to talk about? I guess we're going to talk about, we haven't really discussed it yet, but I'd rather just talk about everything under the sun, but who knows what could evolve. We may just talk about media criticism, the left, and this article right here. This one kind of took me by surprise. I was reading it. He does this, I guess, series called Notes on the Margins. And anyone who has followed me, who has at least followed the show, I have been vocal about my somewhat disdain, or complete disdain, for people on the left, and that includes suddenly Nathan J. Robinson of Current Affairs, of the defunct, supposedly, Current Affairs magazine. Well, I don't know if they're defunct yet. They seem to be going on a 1 year, or 1 year, that's wrong, 1 month rather hiatus beginning this month after some issues came out regarding the staffing, and conflicts with staff regarding their decision or desire to form a workers' co-op. And Nathan decided he did not want that and became hostile to the notion of forming a co-op. So the article is Notes in the Margins on Nathan Robinson's failed prophecies and the imagination of fans. The debacle. I'm just going to read the debacle. I'm going to get to the debacle of Nathan Robinson and leave out the OnlyFans. First time I had many crossover with Mr. Robinson's work. This is again from R.C. Roberts of Barosia Enemy. We'll be on the show tomorrow at noon Central, not Eastern, to talk about his Substack. And I believe, now that I think of it, I want to kind of talk about this subject matter. I want to talk about the Robinson thing and maybe leave fans for some other time. Or maybe we could talk about the OnlyFans issue, or the issues surrounding OnlyFans. He says, the first time I had any crossover with Mr. Robinson's work was in this article, How to End Up Serving the Right. It was sent to me in response to my article, Wearing Your Sunglasses at Night Being Brought Up in America, where I made a mistake of having pleaded with going greenlaw as one of the few radicals we ever had in America, Center. And thus Nathan J. Robinson was evoked like a poltergeist, a favorite demagogue of this particular person. But as Karl Kraus said, the secret of the demagogue is to make himself is to make himself as stupid as his audience so they believe they are clever as he. And boy, did the sender think they were clever. I'm a rather oral reader. That is, as I read words, I hear the words in a particular way, like people who play music hear the notes that they see on page. And when I first read Robinson's article, I heard a sound much like the screeching of a rabbit as it is being torn apart by now. From the beginning book to the ending paragraph, I get a sense that someone who uses their writing as advertisements to yell, if I'm saying this correctly, enemy, 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 rather than tell us anything. The fact anyone takes Nathan Robinson seriously is beyond me. Well, I used to. Exempli gratia. When someone at the old age of 28 decides to write a memoir, we should be very wary. Only overgrown egos get that tired, and that soon in life. But the premise of that memoir is apparently a firmly believed conviction of the author that a future self came back and told his present self of those things suggest that the haze of arrogance. You can read it yourself if you have the time to waste. I would only want a physical copy for the satisfaction of throwing it into a fire. Oh yes. But the drama surrounding Mr. Robinson, known by some as NJR, did not know that. I do now. Has both everything and nothing to do with his writings. I will not recount the chronology of events from the first tweet from the disgruntled to Robinson's recent statement. You can look at those things on your own. I've seen them, I've read the statements, I've talked about the statements, I've aired my views on that statement and how it was just basically a whitewashing, to say the least, of events of Mr. Robinson absolving himself of any wrongdoing within the company that is Chronicles Magazine. So on track. I want to look at what this means. Robinson's entire debacle. Why is it we were reacted to allege, or worse, hypocrisy so swiftly and so coarsely? In a society that lives on in enormous sublime, Victorian St. John's Bithos, what makes us on the left so sensitive to it? And where are the people like Glenn Greenwald, Adolf Reed, and Noam Chomsky who sing a praise for Robinson, which he still displays on his personal website? Let's see, where does this? I don't want to go into the OnlyFans. I just want to talk about this. Okay, yeah, I think this is it. I think that's one can relate directly to Mr. Robinson. One might argue that he is a bit too aggressive, a tad too mean and polemical. A friend of mine said he was often mocking others, and this would be true if it weren't for the far better practitioners of polemics that exist. This may be a personal delusion, though. After all, if someone as sheepish as Robinson is too mean, I must already possess a troop of dancers waiting to dance at my grave when the time comes. Rather, I would lead to this childlike hostility akin to a playground bully, to the fact that the left is in a state of dependency. That is, it believes in its representations of itself. They are not a movement with leaders, but rather followers in the need of a leader. Got a point there? Every time one of our representatives contradicts themselves, acts in a ridiculous manner, or disappoints the digital illiterates, they get stupid. Sorry. My sister was calling me. Send her a link to my YouTube. Because she's liked all the stuff that I've done, so I figured, you know what, I'll just send it to her. They're not a movement with leaders, but rather followers in need of a leader. Every time one of us, I read that. Contradicts themselves and acts in a ridiculous manner or disappoints the digital illiterates, they get stupid. They are like ants walking in a circle until they die because they don't have a queen. The left, when it is not cannibalizing, is in a death spiral waiting for the smell of comforting pheromones. Their pupils are either constricted with a bloodlust or wide with fear. Robinson's fall has left this mocking writer with blood on his lips and the sharks have been alerted. Damn, this reads like a good novel. I'm definitely going to put this in the link for those watching on YouTube, because this is some good shit. This is some good stuff. Although I sometimes have an issue pronouncing the French words, but that's okay. Robinson's fall has left his mockingbird with blood on his lips and the sharks that have been alerted. We fear harm to our laissez divinity. These practitioners have homiletic because we are reminded that the opinions we accept without thought are mere hot air. The only thing gives them power is us. As for the situation itself, I have only two thoughts. One, the observer ought to hold H.L. Mencken's definition of evil, namely, it is a sin to move the evil of others, but is seldom a mistake. When looking at Robinson and his statement about the situation, he ought to be wary. He is, after all, trying to save his career. Given his statement oscillates, is it? Yeah, I said it right the first time. Oscillates between proclaiming a good intention of trying to hire a woman of color, only to then say he then was firing people to reorganize. To then say that this is all not a good idea. To then saying that he was removing people who have a full refresh. You see, and I vote. My rule is this: if someone gives you multiple reasons, they are searching for the one that you want to hear. Robinson's account is verbalizing that he is squirming under pressure. On the other hand, hypocrisy or not, one must ask this: if the creature for argument and for eclat is obligated to give into a workers' cooperative, which is pretty much what the staffers of Current Affairs wanted. I spoke privately in a DM message on Twitter to one of the workers in the statement. I keep the name private because I want to respect privacy. But she said to me that Nathan, when initially presented with the option or the proposal of workers' co-op, rather, he seemed fine with it. Robinson seemed fine with it, and then all of a sudden he changed his opinion. They had a Zoom meeting, and he got angry. He just got belligerent, and when they brought this up during the meeting, he just was not happy with it. So, anyway, excuse me. I could plead with you for forgiving relativity, to suggest people have room to change their minds, and thus Robinson has. As I'm not even sure people can change, however, I want to take a more prejudiced position. I'm going to read on. Personally, I think seeing an anarchist portray themselves reveals a little bit of intelligence is left. I do not see any obligation by someone having begun an organization to turn it over to a cooperative. A cooperative, mind you, is not a union. It is not about protection of rights of the worker. It is about sharing power within an institution. It is about ownership. As Robinson noted in a footnote, he doesn't believe that the admin and business side should be able to outweigh stuff related to the editorial content of the magazine. And I sympathize with this. Being the editor of Rosia Enemy, I would never share power with a cooperative in the area of editorial decisions. That this has been my project, my vision of beliefs. Hypocrisy or no, Robinson ought not to give up his power. So, okay, I'll wait. I must say, after all, I'm still surprised that Robinson ran into this debacle. After all, you would not have thought his future self might have warned about this, right? And, yeah. Okay. That's about as far as I'm going to go with the article. So, as far as my feeling of saying that Robinson ought not to give his power. So, my one disagreement with the article, I probably had some disagreeing. I have some difference of opinion. First of all, I think the article was well written and well done. So RC Roberts did very, very good on the article, and Rosia Enemy. Again, check them out. I'll put the link in the YouTube for those watching now or later to check out his work. It's fantastic. Where I would sort of disagree, and I hope they hear me out at best, Do I believe Robinson should be able to give up his power? No. That's one side of the coin. On the other side, as I said, I talked to one of the workers in a DM message on Twitter a week ago. And again, I won't say her name. She's one of the people who wrote that statement. And most of this is because of respect for privacy. She admitted to me that Nathan Robinson initially agreed to a workers' co-op. He was fine with it. He seemed okay with it. He was cool with it. It was, it's like it brings current affairs forward. It moves them forward in a new direction. And then all of a sudden, they have a Zoom meeting, and for one reason or another, he becomes belligerent about the issue. He wants everything for himself and doesn't want to take any piece of the pie, or wants to take, I've used this analogy before, he takes a piece of a pie and he doesn't share it with the coworkers. He takes the big piece of the chocolate cake and the coworkers get the others. The only reason why the staffers at Current Affairs wanted to do workers' co-op in the first place was because they wanted their say in the editorial stance of the magazine. They weren't trying to change anything. They weren't trying to overpower Nathan Robinson by any chance. They didn't seem to, as far as I saw. And I read everything clearly, as clear and concise as I could, and nothing showed that Robinson, or the co-workers at Current Affairs, were trying to overpower Robinson in any way. Should he still be part, like the main person who created the magazine? Yes, but he should also give the people that work for him as their boss their freedom, their say in editorial stances and freedom, and let them. I don't want to say dictate. I'll say maybe. It's on top of my tongue. Maybe just maybe kind of push for a better worker habits. Anyway, so we'll talk more about this tomorrow with RC Frosia. Again, Frosia Enemy. It's an article about, again, Nathan J. Robinson and the current affairs. It's also talking about the imagination of OnlyFans. Initially, OnlyFans said they wanted to ban pornographic material, and then reverse themselves because the support for sex work. But that's a whole other topic. Oh, I'm getting into some very heavy stuff tonight. I'm trying to keep it. It's Friday, but who cares? It's Friday, right? It's Friday night. We're here to party. No, not party, but anybody in chat? I don't think anyone's in chat, so I give it. I'll keep the show going. Hopefully, people show up and take some comments. Let's see. Oops. So, sorry, I'm trying to build the show here. Trying to find something interesting for a. Let's see. So I did ask last night. I will say I will ask this. So I didn't screen share it actually. So I will ask this. I know I'm 5 episodes into doing this show, and I know I sound a little monotone when I do it. I'm aware of the fact that I sound nervous and stiff and monotone and boring. So I asked the people at large, what can I do to make the show better? So with RC coming on tomorrow, Charlie is his first name, but he also goes by RC. With RC coming on tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Sunday. I made it tomorrow, which I don't usually, Sunday. What can I do to make the show better so there's more interesting reasons for those of you to watch? Should I have more guests? Should I have more commentary? Should I play more videos? Should I play less video? Should I juggle? Should I play more background music? Should I be a DJ? What have you? Should I read from any of my book collections? So I'll probably again drop that link in the YouTube response. Ask the question: what can John Ross do to make his show? What can I do? Why I said I refer to myself in third person. Weird, but what can I do to make the show better? That's the question I like to ask. Make it more interesting, more fancier, more of a reason for you guys to tune in. No, I was thinking of having on for a show. Karthik Purushottam, again, another Substack guy, another Substack writer. Screen share? No. I don't want to screen share yet. Let me find it first. That's what the name is. Karthik. I think I have this guy on because I interviewed him once for when I was just doing Twitch only. He does a show, not a show. I keep thinking that it's a podcaster. We don't all do podcasts. He's a blogger, a writer, a blogger, independent journalist, whatever you want to say. Podcaster. Yeah, blogger, podcaster, writer. He does a Substack called Alien Encounters. And I had him on recently when I was doing a show, Twitch only, and found him to be quite interesting. Actually, really interesting. So, with his interest in aliens and UFOs, not that I've ever showed any interest, but actually before, but talking to him may have changed that. So, thinking of maybe starting a segment of some kind on Friday nights as I grow the show and it evolves to something interesting rather than just me pulling up YouTube and showing news events and video clips from days and weeks ago. I really want to make the show interesting. I really want to make it into a YouTube and Twitch stream that's of a leftist progressive political viewpoint, also walk away with something new and informed. So I'm hoping, so in that spirit, I'm hoping to contact Mr. Karthik Sharma, Alien Encounters, which actually shows. Show my screen again. Okay, this Substack page, and please forgive Karthik. Yeah, for even starting his name, which I shouldn't. So please forgive me, Karthik, if you don't want me to plug in your stuff. But then again, that's how we support each other, right? Is support, plugging people, and being supportive of each other, plugging each other's shows, getting support. So here's the about to Karthik's show in Substack. Of course, I have my own Substack, which I always announce at the end of the show. It's TJRS.substack.com. I need to blog more. So need to blog more. Because I haven't in such a long time. With the passing of Ed Asner this past week, thinking of doing, I want to do a remembrance blog of Mr. Asner. I would say go check, what's his name, Ed Rothman from Jackman, who wrote a great piece on the website, on the Jackman website, about Asner and his support for DSA, his membership at DSA, his two-term Screen Actors presidency, Screen Actors Guild presidency, I believe it was his support for El Salvador and El Salvadorian refugees, I believe it was, that got his show, Lou Grant canceled, which was a spin-off of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Of course, those of us who are millennial aged or are more remembrance of him Up and Elf as Carl Fredrickson and Santa Claus. So yeah. So this is why the show Lou Grant got canceled by CBS. It's not. I forget I can't screen share and tab over, so I got to do this. I got to close out of the screen share and screen share again. Something I'm learning every day. Show. Can't. Wait, is that? No, it's not picture in picture, so everyone can see it. So cancellation of Lou Grant in 1982 was controversial. Asner, who served 2 terms as president of the Screen Actors Guild, during which he voiced opposition to the U.S. government policy in Central America and worked closely with medical aid for El Salvador. So his support for aid to El Salvadorian refugees. Up until his death in 2021, he consistently stated his position in that his political views, as well as the publicity they attracted, were the root cause of the show's cancellation. And CBS denied it, and they said ratings were the problem. And yeah, in that spirit, I know that I've showed this article many times before, and I fear that I'm just going to pop off. Also, there are 2 articles about the now. So this is the one by Ed Brample. I don't know why I mispronounced his last name. Ed Brample and Jackman, who wrote what I would say a very great, as I can't do it wrong, a very well thought out, well decent, well written piece in Jacobin about the late actor and his political stance in Hollywood. And I'm surprised that he did not. I'm actually happy about it, but I'm also not surprised that he got blacklisted. Because nowadays, with when you speak out, when you're on the left, and you don't see just because you're on the left, you're supposed to be like a Democrat, and you don't always line up with that stance in Hollywood, you get blacklisted. Like leftist actors and celebrities that don't line up with the normal, moderate, liberal Democrat Hollywood stance, they get blacklisted. So Ed Asner survived until when he went. So probably need to go get some more to drink. So where is it? Where's the Salvador? Here it is. Yeah, he took a stance against the Reagan administration and paying a deep price for opposing U.S. interference in Central America. And a previous interview with this again was with Ed Rothman. Who was it? Rampel. Why did they say Rothman? I don't know why. Ed Rampel. Jacob. Taking a previous that he had met Ed Asner. Same at the Saturday before he passed, so not too long ago. Taking a heroic stand against the Reagan administration and paying a deep price for opposing interference in Central America by the Reagans. He said we discussed what had gone down in the 80s while making the grant, while serving as president of SAG, while he got into a big brouhaha with President Reagan, who was a former SAG president and a long-term conservative. He met a Catholic nun by the name of Sister Pat Crump and showed him footage shot by a Belgian cinematographer about the dead lieutenant El Salvador, and he was shocked. And it happened under the U.S. aegis and finality of the United States. Bill Zimmerman came to me, having been successful with medical aid for Indonesia, and said, will you do the same for El Salvador? I'm on board. And Ed said, I will too. In February of '82, he went to Washington to present the funds they had raised in a ceremony with the ongoing crisis in El Salvador. And because he was the star of a current TV show, they asked him to read the credo of the group. And he did, and it was a turnout automatically, and we began asking questions. And I began to field the questions, which he now said it was a big mistake. Asner, as most progressives do in Hollywood, they call for free and fair elections, in this case in El Salvador, and asked him, and the journalist asked him if he would still support if it turned out to be a communist government. And he said, quote, if it's, let me do my Ed Asner impression, if it's the government that the people of El Salvador choose, let them have it. That's democracy. That's what it's called. And Charlton Heston, by this point, who had turned from, in the 1980s, had turned from a liberal Democrat to a conservative Republican, supporting everything from gun control, gun rights, holding a rally, an NRA support rally in Colorado, and not far from the town where Columbine happened. This was in 1999, I think 2000. He is pretty much, Heston, not to get off topic here for a moment, but I'll just say that Heston at that point is the embodiment of the Trump conservative, whiny little woke, anti-woke, or I guess I'd say woke, conservative that whines and pouts about how they can't say what they used to say because the younger generation is too sentimental, too insensitive. That's the view that the Charlton Heston view has come to the forefront in the last 4 years during Trump. But I say those people are just as bad as those on the moderate left. They are as woke as any moderate leftist is. And, I'll shut up on it now. I don't want to get into trouble. Charlton Heston made all kinds of slurs on innuendos about my response. Bruce Hirschenshon, who was a commentator at ABC at the time, spent 3 nights talking about how dangerous I was to the country. And immediately, because of all this, sponsors from the Lou Grant Show have pulled their ads, and CBS sent its vice president to say the sponsors just, we're standing by the show, but it was really ratings. And towards the tail end, but again, from the very end, Asner believed that his support for the refugees in El Salvador was, refugees in El Salvador were the crisis in, were the reason for his show's cancellation. I just want to make sure that I'm saying it right. So, so his support for El Salvador and the reasons that he believed that the show got canceled, that his show, Lou Grant, got canceled. So, excuse me. So that was that article. I'm just now coming across this article and his fight for labor, which was also Jeff, again, Jacobin, Jeff, let's see where he pronounces Jeff Sherwood, saying it right, I apologize. I can't click on it. Speaking of SAG-AFTRA, Matthew Modine lost to Fran Drescher. Yeah, that's another thing I found out on the majority report today. That Matthew Modine lost his, I think, second bid for SAG-AFTRA, which is hard because I like Modine personally. I really didn't voice too much support for him. But I knew that he was the right choice for the job or for the position as president of that organization, and would fight for a better unionized system within the Hollywood industry. That's my belief. Before I get to this, I want to stay on the topic of Ed Asner, and I'm just going to play. Let's see. Merger. I guess this is from 1984. This is related to the cancellation of the show. This was in 84. So I'm going to play this, and I am going to. This is with Harold Green in 1984. It's on YouTube. And then I'm going to come back and talk about, again, the future of the show. So I'm actually going to go get something to drink because I'm thirsty as hell. Yes, it's this one. And I'll be right back, folks. Stay put.
Would you like to hear the saga
Please.
of the last 2.5 weeks?
Please.
I mean, everybody thinks that I'm sitting on top of the world, right? You've thought it all along.
All
right?
along, sure.
Yeah. 2.5 weeks ago, I'm staying in a hilltop home, burglarized. Precious articles, not emotional articles, monetary articles are stolen from me because I'm never there. Okay. First contact with the police. Second contact with the police. A half a week later, I'm at my cleaners putting the cleaning in the trunk of my car, Sunset in Fairfax, car 8 feet behind me, little darling 3-year-old in it. And I'm busy bending over in the trunk, and before I know it, I feel this presence as if it were a large dog goosing me. And the darling 3-year-old had taken the car out of the park. And there was enough of an incline that it just broke a little bone in my knee. So I've got this monstro cast up to the middle of my thigh. So there was another police report. So I couldn't drive. Stayed at a friend's place in the meantime, being chauffeured back and forth. So what happens next? My next contact with the police, my secretary went up to maybe get the car, but my daughter borrowed the car. Hers was in the garage. My car was stolen. And, I mean, it was a junker anyway, but I was trying to get 100,000 miles on that car, and I only had 8 more to go.
As the tough but lovable Lou Grant on first The Mary Tyler Moore Show and then his own series, Asner the actor reported the news. But in the last 4 years, he's become a high-profile citizen making the headlines, most notably for sending money to rebels in El Salvador for medical supplies. Suddenly, Ed Asner had as many detractors as Lou Grant had fans.
Asner, yes. Censorship, no. Asner, yes.
As a performer who has experienced applause, were you disappointed at all when you received negative feedback because of your views?
Yeah, because once again, I was a naive person. I suppose self-righteous in a lot of respects, too much, projecting too much of that. So when I was involved in what I considered a humanitarian act, I was accused of using my office as president of the Guild illegally and mistakenly and wrongly to perform this act. So, you know, once again, it's in any other sense, it can be the conservative doing a patriotic deed, but because of these particular acts, which are, I suppose, anti-establishment acts, I guess is, depending on what the establishment is, they're considered not patriotic.
Talking about politics, you've said it hasn't hurt you to speak out, but there are those who feel the cancellation of Lou Grant was directly attributed to your speaking out about Central America.
Oh, no, I believe that. I believe the show was canceled peremptorily. It hurt the American viewing public, deprived the public of a very good, dramatic, informative show, which was certainly not a #1 show in terms of ratings, but always had a nice following. We were canceled with a 27 share, and that 27 share today would not unusual for a top 10 show.
In the past, some have claimed that Asner blurred the line between his political opinions as a private citizen and as president of the Guild. The most vocal critic, former SAG president Charlton Heston. But Asner's something of a rarity among celebrities, willing to publicly support causes popular or not. Criticism hasn't deterred him. Despite his tumultuous first term as SAG president, Asner sought and was elected to a second term last November.
The past 4 years have been the most rewarding, enriching. I'm not saying they haven't been enormously tough, but compared to a normal 4 years of my life, they've been electric.
What gives you the most pleasure these days? What puts a smile on your face?
Well, winning an occasional battle certainly would help. They are rare. They are rare, but it is sweet when it happens. Like most actors, I want everybody to like me. I've never been able to cure that. I at least have reached the point of maturity now where I know and won't be saddened knowing that everybody is not going to like me. So that's a big point of maturity I've reached.
So, and my mic muted. Is there anyone who was better than Ed Asner? I can't think of anyone. To be quite honest with you. Anywho, sorry, I'm back. I just, again, stuff to get something great. And I'm eating cherry bombs. Cacahuaba. How do they taste? Not bad. Although I shouldn't really be eating much sweets. Too much sugar for me. Anyway, so that was a great interview. Speaking on that, there was, this year. So by Jeff Sherrow, again, Jacobin, Ed Asner, who was a card-carrying DSA member, leftist, was a big union supporter, obviously, as you can see, joining the strike, the merger. Yeah, he fought against the merger of SAG-AFTRA, but in support, being supportive of members nonetheless. As tribute for legendary actor Ed Asner, who died on August 29th at age 91, many are to his lifelong dedication of left actors. Best known for portraying lovable curmudgeons like Lou Grant and Carl Fredrickson, Asner was also an outspoken opponent of U.S. intervention in Central America during the 1980s when he served as president of the Screen Actors Guild. Though Asner said at the time that his public solidarity with the revolutionary movement, leftist movements in El Salvador, Nicaragua was separate from his official duties as SAG president. His trade unionism and principled politics were intertwined. He was a unionist who always pushed for the labor to fight for the rights of all workers in the United States and the world. He decided to run for SAG's presidency in 1981 to strengthen the union, and had the year before, most actors in Hollywood had staged a 4-day strike to have higher earnings from the cable and video markets who were nascent at the time. Just paraphrasing here. On picket lines, he emerged as a natural leader and spokesman for the union. When SAG officers eventually settled for a contract that allowed movies to be shown for 1 year after the actors began receiving residuals, Asner was disappointed. He joined a caucus of other rank-and-file SAG members who wanted to push the union to fight harder for workers. You're either a union or you're not. You either vote for the striker issues or know what you're striking for, or you don't. So, I'm my terrible Ed Asner impression. But he was a good man. He was a great man. And the one thing that really does kind of bug me is the fact that nobody ever admits, like probably one article, I think that the last Jacobin article mentioned that he's from Kansas City. I've been mentioning it for the last week since the revelation of his passing. He was a Kansas City Missourian. He's from here. He's from the Midwest. We don't see a lot of Midwestern socialists leftists here. I mean, being a conservative, living in a conservative, not being me personally being conservative, but living in a conservative town is excruciating sometimes. Anyway, make close out of that. I did a little editing while I was before I came back on. So, let's see. So, once elected as SAG president, Eisner called on big name movie stars to unite solidarity with the low-paid working actors by pushing for a smaller screen actors guild. The idea that stars like Charlton Heston, who was a former SAG president, and Robert Conrad, scoffed at with elitism. Of course, like I said, Heston was at this point a former leftist turned rightist, and he's became the representation of every white, woke personality, Trump voter. And, like I said, wokeism, cancel culture, not a left-wing, right-wing thing with me, folks. It's a societal thing. I can get further into it, but not tonight. So, we're not a guild, we're a guild, not a union. Conrad insisted. How can you have a union with some numbers even over $1 million a year and still some less than $2,500? In the midst of a merger debate, Eisner began using his celebrity to speak out against the U.S. military aid to violent right-wing forces in Central America, including El Salvador's military regime and Contras, bringing him into conflict with another former SAG president, Ronald Reagan. And as Rampol details, Eisner's role in donating funds to medical assistance in El Salvador's Carabobo Marti National Liberation Front landed him in hot water with the political and media establishment, leading eventually to the cancellation of a CBS series, which you can find, apparently. I just found out you can find all 5 seasons on DVD, and so help me, if it's on streaming, I'm definitely going to watch it. So that's my whole time. If it's on streaming somewhere, I'm watching it. I'm not kidding. I hope it's streaming somewhere. I wish the chat was active right now, so I could just ask the people at large. I wish for more. One of the things my ego's going to kick in now. I wish there was more people at large watching the show, and the chat was active with people just asking questions, answering questions that I would like to know. I can answer the chat questions, and they can hopefully answer mine, which is, can you find Lou Grant, the TV series Lou Grant, on streaming? That's what I'd like to know. Hopefully on a free streaming network, because I have Roku. I'd love to see this show. But also read his book, The Grouchy Historian. I read it briefly, but now that he's gone, now that he's tragically passed, now that he has passed from this earth, I'm going to read Ed Asner's book, The Grouchy Historian, which I can find in my anyway, back to this story. He also generated anger for backing the controversial air traffic controller strike in 1981, joining them on the picket lines and fundraising to support them after they were all fired by Reagan. Of course, he generates anger from the right wing for supporting the right things, no pun intended. But then there's all these right-wing people these days voicing anger at the left for nonsensical reasons. His intra-union opponents like Heston relentlessly criticized him for these actions, but Eisner was unapologetic, and more power to him for being it. He was one of us. He was ours in efforts. I don't want to say the whole swear word because I get in trouble. I get flagged on it. I know what'll happen. He was ours, people. Those of us on the left, he was ours. I regret none of what I did or what I said or what I championed. He said, now, if I become sacrificed, that's all right too. I've had a wonderful career, and if someone tries to cut it short because of what I may be doing, that's too bad. The majority of SAG's membership stuck by Asner, re-electing him to the union presidency in 1983, although it would take another 9 years before his desired merger with the Screen Actors Guild was finally consummated. SAG would later also merge with the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, AFRA, in 2012. During his second term as SOG president, Asner doubled down on the Central American solidarity with activism by becoming a staunch opponent of the AFL-CIO's aggressively anti-communist foreign policy. For years, the Labor Federation partnered with the State Department and CIA to divide foreign unions along Cold War battle lines. This was especially true to Latin America, where the AFL-CIO's government-funded American Institute for Free Labor Development was actively undermining leftist movements of the early 1960s. By the 1980s, the Federation's leadership was battling Reagan on domestic issues, but it actually supported Reagan's Central American policy. AIFLD was on the ground in El Salvador attempting to prop up the U.S.-backed counterinsurgency government while constantly bombasting the Sandinistas in neighboring Nicaragua. The top institution of the American labor movement was aiding the United States support of viciously violent and anti-democratic right-wing forces in Central America. As at the 1985 AFL-CIO convention in Anaheim, Asner joined a handful of the National Union presidents in denouncing AIFLD and calling for a better approach to international labor solidarity. The first time open debate over the Federation's foreign policy had ever held in public information. Drinks for me. It does not make me proud to see us bolstering the foreign policies of those whose stated goals include the destruction of one's own labor movements, Asner said at the convention of the floor, referring to Reagan. I love the labor movement and the things it stands for. It makes me more a human being. That's why I'm here. It is because I love the labor movement that I don't want to see it sullied by any foreign policy that belays our highest ideals. Thanks in part to Asner's outspokenness, much of the labor movement broke with the AFL-CIO leaders and came out against continued military aid to the Contras and Salvadorian government. On April 25, 1987, up to 45,000 rank-and-file union members from 20 different unions gathered on the National Mall, along with tens of thousands of others to protest Reagan's Central America policy. One of the keynote speakers of the rally was Asner. I was the chair button now. The legacy will live on. That's the next story. After completing his second term as union president in 1985, Asner continued calling for a more righteous labor movement. Over the next several decades, most recently, he was one of the leading voices in challenging an overhaul to SAG-AFTRA's health plan. Let's see. The change, which went into effect at the start of the year, raised the annual earnings eligibility for SAG-AFTRA healthcare coverage from $1,840 to $2,550, resulting in nearly 12,000 of the union's lowest paid members losing their insurance, including many seniors in the midst of an ongoing pandemic. I am horrified that a union that I led, could do this to its membership, Asner said last August when the healthcare overhaul was announced. It's shameful. The union's current leadership said the move was necessary to prevent the healthcare fund from going bankrupt and points to other insurance options for members of the new AFL-CIO Medicare Advantage program and expanded COBRA coverage from the American Rescue Plan. In December, Asner became the lead plaintiffs in a lawsuit against the SAG-AFTRA healthcare plans trustees. SAG-AFTRA health plans trustees, alleging a breach of fiduciary duty and discrimination against seniors. Earlier this week, a federal judge denied a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. Okay. Meanwhile, oh jeez. This is taking me. I love reading this stuff, but I was going to take a breath. Meanwhile, SAG-AFTRA is in the midst of a heated election with the union's presidency pitting Matthew Modine, known for Full Metal Jacket and Stranger Things, against Fran Drescher, star of the 90s sitcom The Nanny. Modine represents a reform caucus supported by Asner before his death, angered by the changes into the healthcare, while Drescher is backed by the union's established leadership. The votes will be counted September 2nd, and today is September 3rd. The votes were counted, and unfortunately, Modine lost heated election. Fran Drescher, who I love, I will not deny, I have nothing against her as an actress. She is well-meaning. I love her. I think her heart is in the right place in a lot of ways. But the fact that she is backed by the Democratic establishment, or the union's leadership establishment, means that nothing will change in SAG-AFTRA. Matthew Modine, unfortunately, was the more what I'd call progressive choice. He wanted to change course as SAG-AFTRA president. And unfortunately, he lost. Whatever the result, Asmer's legacy of principled stands and international solidarity will live on both in SAG-AFTRA and the broader labor movement. Different people remember. Different people remember me for different things, and that's great. Me too, last month. But the one thing I hope I am remembered for is that I tried to make the world a better place. Again, written by Jeff. Oh boy, I can't. Jeff Shuro and Jackman. I'm so bad at remembering names, last names. So I apologize. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So the other thing, yeah, SAG-AFTRA election. Again, Fran Drescher, establishment pick of Matthew Modine. Again, a wonderful person, a good actress, a good gal. Has beat the more progressive candidate, Matthew Modine. So, and to be quite honest, this might surprise people, but I actually kind of followed this election. Yeah, I guess I can do Hollywood Reporter. Jolie Fisher. Well, I guess the one good thing out of this election is that Jolie will be succeeding Cameron Manheim as the Secretary Treasurer, and she was, I believe, Modine's VP. Hard for battle in the contentious national election. Drescher was appointed SAG-AFTRA's next president, prevailing over rival Matthew Modine. Jolie Fisher was also elected to succeed Cameron Manheim as the union's Secretary-Treasurer, besting Anthony Rapp. Drescher received 16,958 votes and Modine 15,331 votes. For the post of Secretary-Treasurer, Fisher received 18,547 votes and Rapp 13,953 votes. A total of 122,154 ballots were mailed, 26.49%. I'm honored to see that. Okay. Shoot. Gabrielle Carteris. Turned for election. She backed Nanny. Yeah, Drescher was backed by Gabrielle Carteris, who was the outgoing SAG president. And from what I've been informed by, and when I say I've been informed, like nobody's ever talked to, but Gabrielle Carteris, isn't her term of the SAG presidency, hasn't it been controversial? SAG president, SAG. So, seeking re-election. I keep remembering I have to screen share all the time. I have to stop screen sharing and screen sharing. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, Gabrielle Ann Carlos from Beverly Hills 90210, who was the outgoing SOG president, SOG after president. She became vice president of SOG AFRA, and then following a merger, and then she became acting president of the union, following Ken Howard's passing on March 23rd, 2016, and elected a month later to Lee Howard's remaining two-year term. She's now on her third two-year term as president of defeating challengers Isai Morales and, of course, Matthew Modine votes for show. She serves, curb, including raise to the urn, to the floor, welfare for next year's SOG opera health plan due to 2 consecutive years of deficits and projected losses in years to come. Not see re-election in 2021, backing Fran Drescher, and this is going to be the next president. So, yeah, Matthew Modine lost his second bid for SOG opera president, which is sad because I looked at what he was offering as far as from a progressive standpoint for SOG opera, and he really seemed like a clear choice. So I will say it was a hard-fought mastermind, or I'll just say Private Joker. Is that you, John Wayne? Is this me? Yeah. So, yeah, man. That's SOG opera. Has he said anything? I wonder if his he hasn't said anything, has he? I wonder if he has. You know, I actually have to use the bathroom. So I'm gonna have to play another video on YouTube, so forgive me. I have to do something so you don't sit here. Just watch a blank screen. Okay. Well, here's something. Vincent D'Onofrio. So, it's 30 seconds long. I want to be able to. I need to go to the bathroom. I'm trying to find a good size video about the SOG presidency, SOG after election. Jeez. I have to go to the bathroom so bad. I gotta go to the bathroom, and I'm trying to find something to keep the stream going on. But I'll do this. Speaking of Jacobin. It's okay, it's screen share.
Well, I don't know if you know this about me, Anna. I think you do, but I've been known to pick up a guitar here and there and strike up a tune, shred like hell and melt some faces. Yeah. And last month, those of us in the guitar playing community, the ones who have a subscription to Guitar World magazine still and know who Joe Satriani is, got a little bit of news.
Taylor Guitars in El Cajon is transitioning to 100% employee ownership.
Yes, Taylor Guitars is going to be owned by its employees. That's pretty cool. That's interesting. Now, for those of you who don't know much about guitars, Taylor is one of the most famous manufacturers of acoustic guitars.
This is one of the biggest guitar factories in the United States. Taylor Guitars was founded by Bob Taylor and Kurt Listug in 1974. That's fairly new considering some of its competitors like Gibson or Martin Guitars. Today, big music names like Taylor Swift, Jason Mraz, and Zac Brown strum to the tune of a Taylor guitar.
Yeah, they're considered some of the best guitars you can find. I mean, Taylor Swift plays Taylor, so they're good. And as of last month, the company's fate is going to be in the hands of its 1,200 employees, most of whom work at the factories in El Cajon, California, or Tecate, Mexico. And that sounds kind of cool, right? I mean, one of the central problems with capitalism is that most of us have to work for private companies that are owned by people who are not us. We create value for those companies in exchange for a wage, except the value we create is greater than the wage we get in return, and that difference is what we call profit. And all of that goes to the people who own the company. So if the employees own the company, then the value they create for the company ultimately goes to the people who work for it. Now, it's worth clarifying a few things. Taylor did this through something called an ESOP, or Employee Stock Ownership Plan. This is not, to be clear, a worker co-op, at least not for now. But what it does ensure is that Taylor will not be sold to, say, someone like a private equity firm.
Now tell me about the transition to 100% employee ownership. Why did you guys decide to do this, Kurt?
Well, we know that we won't live forever, and we would like the company to continue beyond us. So we have the responsibility to put the company in the right hands. And our choices were kind of limited. It was keep it in the family. I don't have kids. Bob has a couple of adult daughters. They weren't interested in being in the guitar business. We could have sold to another guitar company or a financial firm, but those were both distasteful to us. We thought our guitars would suffer in quality. We thought the business would kind of go downhill. So the best choice for us was we looked at who helped us get to where we are and who most deserved it, and that was our employees. So we found a way to structure an employee stock ownership plan, and we sold the company to that, and the employees now are inheriting the company.
So you've heard the story before, right? Company is healthy and successful and maybe even beloved. It then gets sold to a private equity firm who then squeeze out as much value in the short term as they can, ruining the company in the process and laying off all its workers. A recent example of this is Fairway Markets in New York. This is from The Atlantic's write-up of that story. The story is a familiar one, even for shoppers hundreds of miles from the nearest Fairway. Most consumers have seen some of their favorite chains like Toys R Us, Shopgo, Claire's, Payless Shoe Source, Nine West, Gymboree, Staples, and A&P, among many others, face financial distress and shutter some or all of their stores. Like Fairway, these businesses were owned by private equity, a form of finance in which investors buy, overhaul, and then sell companies. Also, like Fairway, the other retail chains were profitable at the time they were taken over. Before those buyouts, these businesses had low levels of debt and owned their real estate, a necessary precaution for companies suddenly facing more competition or industries seeing widespread changes. Taylor, for their part, had low levels of debt and owned their real estate. The Atlantic continues. Most companies mean to stay in business in the long term, and those in the industries most exposed to the business cycle know that low debt and no rent are the keys to surviving hard times and then prospering when the good times return. The motivation is very different for private equity owners, however, who operate under a much shorter time frame, often just 3 to 5 years before moving on. For them, low levels of debt and high levels of real estate ownership present a get-rich-quick opportunity. Basically, what they do is load these healthy companies up with debt, sell any of the assets they may own, and use their cash flow to pay themselves. It's one of those things that when you hear about it, you find it shocking that it's actually 100% legal. And had Taylor's founders sold to a financial firm, it's safe to assume that the company would not survive for long, precisely because they owned their factories and had healthy cash flows. The financial vultures would see that as an opportunity to pay themselves exorbitant dividends. Now, of course, it's worth mentioning that Taylor isn't the exception, not the norm. It's a company that makes a highly specialized artisanal product, and its founders clearly had other goals outside of the naked pursuit of profit in the short term. But that's always going to be an outlier in our system. That's why people like Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn both included employee ownership plans in their respective campaigns for president and prime minister. Writing in Jacobin about Corbyn's plan, Peter Gowan writes, quote, the inclusive ownership fund's proposal, drawing its name from much of its inspiration from a recent report by researchers Matthew Lawrence, Andrew Pendleton, and Sarah Mahmood of the New Economics Foundation, calls for transferring 10% of the equity in all British firms with over 250 employees into worker-owned and controlled funds over the next 10 years. The funds would pay out annual dividends of up to £500 and retain the remainder as a social dividend to buttress public services and reduce inequality. And for their part, Vox.com called Bernie's employee ownership proposal, quote, his most socialist idea yet. I love that. You know, Bernie's most socialist idea yet, explained from the good friends at Vox.com. Anyway, and like much things Bernie, he has been saying some version of this for a long, long time. Here he is way back in 2007.
This amendment would begin to reverse that trend by providing employees with the resources that they need to own their own businesses through employee stock ownership plans and eligible worker-owned cooperatives.
People ask me every day, what do I do to look the way that I do? When I tell them it's 99%.
And here he is, way back in 1985.
But what we're talking about here is a new vision about the relationship of people to the work that they do. Now, the fact of the matter is that many of us work 40 hours a week, or 50 hours a week, or 60 hours a week, all over the United States of America. And we become used to the way we relate to our employers. We understand and we accept it as a basic reality that we go to work for somebody else, that somebody else decides the kind of product that will be produced, how it will be produced, where it will be produced, and when it will be produced. And that somebody else has the right to say that, gee whiz, we can't make money in this town anymore, and we're going to leave and go to the Dominican Republic where we can get workers for $2 or $3 a day. Why do we have to pay all of $4 an hour when we can get cheaper labor abroad? I, the owner, will make that decision, and you, the worker, and you, the community that used to house this company or this factory or this office complex, tough luck. It's mine. I own it. I will do as I please.
You gotta love young Bernie. He still was already old at heart. Anyway, when we talk about politics, like we do on this show and like maybe you do in your life, what are we really talking about? I mean, if you really boil it down to its essence, politics is about who gets what in our society. As Marx said, it is a struggle between capital and labor. Capitalists, or the bourgeoisie, are those people who own things like companies or land. Labor, or the proletariat, are those people who do the work in exchange for a wage that the capitalist gives them. And a good way to look at that struggle in its most basic form is to see what percentage of the overall economic pie goes to capital and what percentage goes to labor.
Economists have a rule of thumb, I guess you might say, when it comes to economic growth, that the gains from that growth in terms of income tend to be split between labor and capital in a fairly standard way that doesn't change much over time. About 2/3 of income gains go to labor, and the bulk of the rest goes to capital, owners of businesses, owners of shares and equipment and things like that.
So the economist guy is right. The percentage of the income that goes to capital and the percentage that goes to labor had been relatively steady for a long time. 2/3 went to labor and 1/3 went to capital. Now, for us on the left, that was already intolerable because that 1/3 that went to capital was already way too much, given that it's not like 1/3 of the overall population were capitalists. It's in fact much, much smaller than that. But anyway, in recent decades, that intolerable situation has gotten worse.
Men and jobs are the essential basis of our modern America.
Interestingly, though, since about the 1980s, this sort of rule of thumb has really only been true in economics textbooks. For the past generation or so, the share of income that's been going to workers has been declining steadily. It was around 66% across rich countries in the 1980s. It's since fallen to about 62%. In Northern Europe, the declines have been especially large.
So what we on the left want to do is reverse that trend and increase labor's share of the pie at the expense of capital. Eventually, we would like it so that labor gets 100% of the pie. So how do we do that? Well, there are essentially two types of reforms that can do it. The first, and I think the most crucial one, is reforms that increase workers' power. The main way to do this is through labor unions. There are other things like putting workers on corporate boards like they do in Germany, but the main thing is unions. And this is still the most important thing that we need to focus on. The second is ownership reforms. Basically, who owns the firms? Eventually, we want the workers to own all of the firms. And there are several ways to do this. Matt Brunig talks about social wealth funds a lot, such as the one in Norway, and that does seem like a great thing. And there are also schemes like worker co-ops or ESOPs like what Taylor just did. And there are other examples of this around the world. My hometown of Miami has a pretty famous one. The public supermarket chain is actually majority owned by its employees. And the most famous example of a worker-controlled firm is Mondragon in the Basque Country in Spain. Now, I have to admit that when I saw this Taylor news, it put a smile on my face because I've owned Taylor guitars in the past and they really are great. And one of the contradictions of capitalism is that it often destroys things that people genuinely love. But Bob Taylor, for all that we love him, is no revolutionary, but he wants to keep his company going and he recognized that turning it over to Wall Street would mean the death of Taylor guitars. But no, this bit of fun, quirky news will not usher in a socialist utopia. But thinking about who owns the companies we work at is an important piece of the puzzle. And in the meantime, we can at least rest easy that we'll still be able to see geniuses like Michael Lemo from Norman's Rare Guitars in the Valley, incredible store, shred on this beautiful 12-string Taylor.
At Carvana, we treat every customer like we would treat our...
I think if I just practiced a little bit more every single day, I could do that too.
Damn, Nando. Good job at increasing our female demo by that little snippet of you playing your electric guitar. That was nice. Great segment. Really, really good segment. I have to say, like, one thing that I think for people who want to promote the idea of worker co-ops, like, I think one of the takeaways is that when employees own the company, right, the stakes are higher. Like, it's not, you don't feel like you're just I don't know, sometimes with certain workplaces, you feel like you're just there to make the money that you're going to make, and you don't really have any type of sentimental tie to it. The stakes aren't really that high. You can, you'll either get fired or you'll quit and you'll move on. When you own the company, it's your baby, right? And so I feel like that mentality leads to more growth, because we hear about the importance of growth under capitalism all the time. But in a worker-owned co-op, I would argue that growth is much more likely when you have employees who own the company, the stakes are higher for them, and they actually care about the success of the company.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Marx talks about, is that the workers are alienated from the work that they do because they understand on some intrinsic level that it's not for them, that the wage that they're getting in return is insufficient, to the value that they're creating, and that it's, like you said, it's just on a sort of more sentimental level. It's like, what do I care? Like if I bust my ass and make, a few more widgets in the widget factory, it's not gonna make a difference. The under capitalism, the real kind of driver is the threat of immiseration, right? Rather than like the sort of joy and work that you put into whatever it is you do. It's like, if you don't do this, you're going to be poor on the street and you're going to die. So that's the real motivating factor. And that's why people are miserable. Like that's why workers feel alienated from the work that they do. So again, like, I think that this story, I mean, I just did it because I thought it was fun, and it's a fun little story. I mean, it's not going to usher in the revolution or anything like that, but it's just an example of little things that can happen that will change the fundamental relationship that we have with the work that we do. I mean, that's why Bernie has been talking about this for so long. It's like, that on some fundamental level, if we own the companies that we work for, we feel like we're working for ourselves. And it's just that's just a different thing. Again, I still think that there's other.
We'll literally be more invested in the work that we do.
Totally, yeah, exactly. And of course, like, there's a million other things that need to happen for social progress. Again, like, I want to stress the most important thing is increasing labor power, like increasing labor unions and collective organization for workers to be able to exercise their rights and exercise their power and all that thing. That's still the most important thing. And, like things like what's going on in Bessemer, Alabama with the Amazon Union is like, that's the thing. This is kind of like another way, another thing that also should be happening. But one shouldn't supplant the other, if that makes sense. Like it's supposed to be like a shared kind of goal.
All right, I'm back from the restroom. So hope you enjoyed the little bathroom break video for you to watch while I was in the bathroom. I also want to throw this up here. What a great company! Yeah, definitely. Click So Blue. Just full disclosure, is my sister, and I'm glad that you're here. A little embarrassing, a little bit. Great that you're here, sis. You're a humanitarian, and you're right. We do need more companies like Taylor Guitars, as you know, because I'm a bit of a guitar player myself, bad guitar. But that also kind of brings me to the point of the workers in Chipotle. Alex Press from Jacobin Rhoda has been following the story of. Gotta get the mic situated. Alex Press of Jacobin, who's been following the story of the workers of Chipotle, how they are receiving low wages and are working under bad conditions at the restaurants. And so, with that in mind, with the subject matter turned to union workers and labor movement, Check out the Chipotle articles. Just got it. And as someone who has admittedly ate at that restaurant, I will. Well, okay. See here. So this is from Alex Press from Jacobin. Again, Jacobin Mag. Go find, like, and subscribe to their work. Chipotle is a criminal enterprise built on exploitation. This is from back in May. Again, this is ongoing with the the subject of the labor movement. Chipotle's contempt for their lives of the workers is appalling even by fast food standards. But there's finally some good news. New York City is suing the fast casual chain for nearly $500 million for 600,000 separate violations of workers' rights. New York City says Chipotle owes workers $150 million in back pay, hundreds of thousands of violations of the city's Fair Work Week law, which was enacted in 2017 to make fast food workers' schedules more predictable and less subject to last-minute changes. Each violation of the law is subject to a $500 penalty, meaning that Chipotle is additionally on the hook for $30 million in civil penalties. The complaint filed by the Department of Consumer Worker Protection at the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings on April 28th covers the period from when the Fair Work Week law went into effect in November 2017 to December 2019. The city filed an initial suit over violations. The recent complaint says while the fast casual chain hopes to come into compliance beginning in September 2019, it remains out of compliance since the city is filing this lawsuit so that our lives change and our treatment at these jobs change, says Tador Flores, direct translator. Flores has worked in 350th Avenue Chipotle since February 2019. She says that when she first began working at Chipotle, she did not know about the provisions of the Fair Work Week law. These include workers' rights. They're scheduled 2 weeks in advance, but companies mandated to pay workers a premium if they adjust schedules in that 2-week period. A worker could not be scheduled for clocking, working a closing shift one day and opening shift next, without the worker's written consent and a $100 pay premium. At times, I would only see the schedule up so that she'd only be 1 week in, says Flores. They would change the schedule constantly. I didn't even realize that they were violating all these laws. Flores says these violations of the store changed only after she spoke at a rally of fast food workers in New York, SEIU, Local 32 BJ, which organizes with Chipotle workers. After that, management started doing things a little differently at the store, she says. Chipotle won't follow labor laws unless workers force them to do so. There's no excuse for leaving Chipotle's denials on the subject. The company called the city's complaint a dramatic overreach in which Chipotle vows to vigorously defend itself. The complaint lists 599,693 violations in one city in a 2-year period. That's an enormous number. Chipotle's slogan might be food for integrity, food with integrity. But its business model is about dishonesty, disrespect, and downright endangerment of workers. This has long been obvious. Massachusetts fined Chipotle $1.4 million last year for routinely violating the state's child labor laws. There's what workers have been very during the pandemic. Locations remained open even as COVID-19 outbreaks spread to the stores, with the company refusing to close them but waiting to allow employees to quarantine. Workers at one store spoke to Jacobin about an ongoing outbreak. They say Chipotle began searching for the source of the leak rather than addressing the issue by closing the store. The chain also refused to close stores with rat infestations, as one New York City faced Chipotle workers told Jackman last year he was bitten by a rat while cleaning a store that had a well-established rat problem. This kind of goes along with the sanitation issue. Chipotle knew about the infestation for workers at the store had been bitten by rats, but it only stopped by having them come clean rather than one of the store's managers was bitten. After one of the store's managers was bitten. It's no surprise that a company which has no disdain for its workers and pays lax attention to laws has had so many recent food safety incidents. Hepatitis in 2008, E. coli and coronavirus in 2015 and 2016, and Clostridium for fringes in 2018. Probably mispronounced that, but get better. That's what follows with a single-minded drive to reduce labor costs. The company cannot countenance giving workers room to breathe, and as such, it shuts them up when they try to raise the alarm about health and safety conditions. Be fast in the chain's past casual designation is about driving workers hard labor laws and how codes be damned. The job stress really comes from how they treat you, says Flores. The company will say you need to smile and be nice to customers, but right behind you, on top of you, there's a manager screaming, hurry up, yeah, hurry up and finish, why are you working faster? And then when that stresses you out, they say you're not friendly enough, you can't work with that face. Flores worked in the pandemic when she got sick, I put my team nervous. Her job made it. Luisa Mendez, who worked at the Chipotle on East 14th Street in Union Square, was fired in 2018 for being sick. She'd taken a day off to care for her sick dad and daughter, and she too had sick. They told her, sick too often, you're going to get into the company, and they fired her. She said she says it took months of fighting alongside 32 BJ to get her job. The company's violations of the New York's 20 sick leave law is part of the complaint. The city said Chipotle is routinely denied employees request to use sick time, illegally required employees to find a replacement worker, or took disciplinary action against them for using sick times. It states that the company only allowed workers 24 hours of sick leave rather than the legally mandated person did not allow workers to use the hours to care for family members, another violation. The city says that each of its estimated 6,500 fast food employees who work for Chipotle in New York City during this period experienced at least one violation of average 3.4 per year. It estimates that one worker is owed around $20,000 from the company, as the complaint puts at Chipotle is actually for systemic failures to comply with the law. Systemic is right. Managers at any company are tasked with reducing labor costs, but Chipotle's policies are particularly extreme. 32 BJ and the National Consumer League found that Chipotle managers can earn up to a 25% bonus of base pay for keeping down labor costs. This program may incentivize managers to eat productively goals that could include food safety by violating worker protection laws, whereas the organization's report. Chipotle is a multi-billion-dollar company with one of the highest paid CEOs on the planet. It still says most of its workers across the company make less than $15 an hour. It pays most of its workers less than $15 an hour, says 32 BJ President Kyle Ragg and the Chipotle CEO Brian Nicole. Nicole's paid more than doubled in 2020, making him the company's 12th highest paid CEO. For violating the fair work law, failing workers control exposure to get by rats, Chipotle has failed to prioritize worker rights and safety, as Brad. NYC's complaining against Chipotle is a long-time company that workers deserve every penny it might get for them. Chipotle has shown it is willing to cut corners even after attracting the attention of authorities. It will continue to drive workers impossible illegally until those workers make it stop through an organizing strategy that includes campaigns like this one to shop for action. Such actions as successes at the New York City Chipotle's last year, workers at the East 161st Street store in the Bronx walked off the job when Chipotle closed locations, which was experiencing a COVID-19 outbreak, as Albert Morales said. Albert Morales, one of the store's workers, told Jackman at the time, Chipotle isn't wanting anything unless we attack them. The way we attack them is attacking their profits. The company responded by closing the store for 2 weeks, but meaning and paid their workers to quarantine for possession. Chipotle would like every company with that. Chipotle, like every company lives and dies at the bottom line. That means the financial entity in the city suit will get the company's attention. It also means that workers know where to focus their attention, that they have dignity and safety on the job or on an employer that won't even support or respect their legally protected rights. So yeah, Chipotle is one of those, again, one of those corporate companies that prides itself on fairness and dignity and respect and all the rest of it, and paying the workers fairly and keeping them safe, which, as we see here from AliExpress, again from Jacobin, is quite the opposite. It's companies like them that are equally held accountable. It's something that this press kind of put to task with me a few months ago. She made me see what was wrong with Chipotle when I mentioned that people would still eat there, and she made it clear to me that it doesn't matter if people still eat there. That's not the point. The point was that the people at a business, a big company business like Chipotle, needs to be taken into account and held accountable for their violations and actions. And after a while, I realized my mistake. I realized that she was right. I actually reached out to her and said, "Yeah, you were right all along. I was wrong. You were right. You did great work." And now, of course, Ms. Press is, if I put her stuff on the Jacobin website, she's talking, but she's doing some excellent reporting in regards to the Nabisco strike that's going on. So you should check that out. Check out AliExpress on Jacobin. I can't really, as an aspiring journalist, I cannot praise and plug people that I admire. Even if it's not always necessary, I can't help it. If I like their work, I express my appreciation. That's all that matters. There's an earlier article, I hope it's linked here, of the issues that Jacobin, or at, Chipotle. Here it is. Yeah, this was an earlier article from 2020. Chipotle, they ignore the rats and punish the workers. Yeah. There's two of them. Two Chipotles where I live, and I've openly admitted to eating at one several years before. When I say several years before. So yeah. Like, we need more great companies like Taylor Guitars. We need to hold accountable other companies like Chipotle for their actions. So it's a two-way street. So I won't say too much on this article. Again, it's a Chipotle expose, Jacobin, basically mentioning the bad work environment, low pay, being bit by rats. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I wouldn't want to do Chipotle again after that. Maybe give them the same. If you get what I'm saying. Ugh. So, it's almost 9:30 and I still have another to go. I don't want to end the stream an hour early like I did yesterday, so I wish there were more people in the chat so I could take chat questions. But as it is Labor Day weekend, just listen to the quiet to the background music, the chill background music. Strange. You know, it's Friday. What else? Friday night. I work from home today. I guess I could do a few YouTube stuff. Find some funny YouTube stuff to pass the time. I haven't done it in a while. I guess I should, yeah. Let's once again play the sound, our signature sound like of the day.
No! He got a husband!
Hold on, I didn't screen share. So.
Steven said, they hate Dave Rubin because he's a gay man with the wrong opinion. Dave Rubin is gay? No! He got a husband? I did not know. I was in his presence. I didn't know. I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Oh, Steven, why would you send me this? Oh my God, Steven, you ruined my day. Oh, why would you? They hate Dave Rubin because he's a gay man with the wrong opinion. Dave Rubin is gay? No! He got a husband? I did not know. I was in his presence. I didn't know. I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Oh, Steven, why did y'all? I shook his hand. I sat down with him. I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Oh, why would y'all tell? No, I shook his hand.
I just love how he grabs his hand.
I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell me before? I shook his hand. No, I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Down with him. I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Oh, Steven, why would you send me this? Oh my God, Steven, you ruined my day.
That never gets old. Okay, how about some more? We'll do more. Because again, now I'm just doing the past time. I've talked about all that I need to talk about. We talked about Ed Asner. We've done. We haven't done. Brooks, Western Power. We did Asner. We did. When I say we, I mean I. We talked about Asner. Talked about the interview coming up with RC this weekend, this Sunday. Also talk about hoping to have Karthik on in the future. Talk about what to do about the show. 5 episodes in. I've talked all that I need to talk about tonight. So I'm just gonna throw some YouTube stuff up and just. Okay. Here it is. Here's my favorite. This clip is still funny, and I have to say this. Anytime I play a Michael clip, I have to play the whole thing. I just don't play snippets and then talk about it. Usually, when it comes to like Michael Brooks, I play the whole clip, and so that's what. This is my favorite one. This is my favorite clip that Mr. Brooks or Lake Conrad talking about Ray Dubin and how Larry King took a cell phone call in the middle of a live show, and Dave just was not having it.
It is also disgusting and sad, but we come across a fair amount of funny content.
The thing about this is that it's just
want to share.
Sorry, had to restart.
Guys, I want to just do a little palate cleanser for you. Normally we would do this in the post game, but I just want to share a little love, a little joy, a little enjoyment. Someone brought this to my attention earlier today, and this is genuinely one of the funniest things that I've seen in quite some time. And I say that a lot, and honestly, a lot of it is also disgusting and sad, but we come across a fair amount of funny content.
the thing about this is that it sustains and sort of elevates as the time goes on. Like I had to literally pace around the office when I first watched this because it was so funny. And that was like the first minute of it, but
so funny. So I don't know when this is from.
It's recent.
It's recent, and it has to be on a live stream. Is this from a day ago?
This is from 19 hours ago.
19 hours ago. Apparently this is a live stream, so this isn't edited out. And it seems to me that there was an agreement beforehand that like, hey, if I get this phone call, I got to take it. But the way that this phone call is taken and the duration and it's not even contempt, because contempt is more energy. It's just pure disrespect.
Pure alpha.
Pure alpha. So the way I'll intro this is I'm going to try to get Larry King on TMBS. All props to Larry King. Dave Rubin is having a super rough time of it seems like. And when we cut this for YouTube later, it will be, what will it be? It will be like, Alpha Larry King, Cucks Beta Dave Rubin. Guys, watch this. And if you're listening, just realize that Larry King is speaking into a 1996 style massive flip phone. Put this on the speaker so our guests can hear this and enjoy.
But that gets to what you were saying about this sort of partisan way of just, you pick your side and that's sort of where we're at. And these guys aren't going to dinner with each other anymore or any of these things.
You know any Republican moderates? I grew up with a lot of them.
Yeah.
New York Herald Tribune. There's some great Hugh Scott of Pennsylvania. Jake Javits of New York.
Yeah. He's a distant cousin of mine, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Jacob
Great,
Javits, yeah.
Great man.
Yeah.
Great man.
Oh, he's got a phone.
Now let me show the audience.
Yeah, show us this phone. This old...
is Samsung makes it. I visited that company in Korea.
Yeah.
Samsung.
And it's ringing right now.
It is. Oh shit. Hello? Hey, Cannon, where are you?
Look at Dave's already upset, seething inside.
Oh, you didn't have a game today? I got a list. You got a doubleheader this coming Saturday. How did you do?
Rewind that. Rewind that. Sorry, I laughed over it. It's too good.
You can hear Dave like whispering to Larry.
Whispering.
I got a list. You got a doubleheader this coming Saturday.
Yeah, we had a doubleheader today, too.
How did you do?
Larry.
We lost the first one and we won the second.
Oh, that's great. That's a 333 batting average, Cannon. Well, I'm doing David Rubin's podcast now. I'm on his show, and while talking to you, the audience is watching me talk to you. Oh, wow. Cannon, you're a star. So you could do 10 minutes when you open the refrigerator. He wants to do his own podcast.
I'll bring him in.
He's going to be 20 years old. I'll bring him here. He's a great kid. All right, Ken, when am I going to see you? Tonight I'm tied up. Tomorrow I got to do that. How about Thursday? How about Friday night? All right. The night before your doubleheader. I'll be at both games. Okay, I'll be there.
Pause it. I just have to say, now you think after it's sweet. I think he's talking to his son. He's been enormously rude, and it sounds like his son actually is trying to wrap the call up.
Yes.
So let's see where this goes now, because you think
you can sense Dave's sense of relief coming.
You can sense Dave. What I also love, and my guess is that Dave is the type of guy who stupidly grins, but is like seething inside. Yeah. It's like, I'm getting disrespected in my own set. Check this out.
Thursday. How about Friday night? All right. The night before your doubleheader. I'll be at both games. Okay, I'll be there. I love you, Cannon.
Aw.
Okay, talk to you tomorrow. What? What?
The Dodgers or no?
No, what?
The Dodgers got Mookie Betts and David Price.
Today? That's great. The Dodgers got Mookie Betts and David Price today.
You're breaking news for me, man.
He's so mad.
That's so tremendous. Mad. Who did they?
Look at his face here.
Oh my God.
Today? That's great. The Dodgers got Mookie Betts and David Price today.
You're breaking news for me, man.
That wasn't a real sip of water.
And David today. That's great. The Dodgers got Mookie Betts and David Price today.
You're breaking news for me, man.
That's tremendous. Who did they give up for them?
Nikes and suspenders. Pure disrespect.
Oh, that's two pretty good players. Get to my Aitken picture. Alex Verdugo is going to be a star. So Peterson, is there someone go from the Angels to the Red Sox? Wow. Cannon, you bring me great
Dave
news.
just gave him a sign here. Watch this. Fake sip. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Come on, Larry.
Cannon, you bring me great news. That's great, Cannon. Thank you for this, and the audience here thanks you.
Better than what we were talking about.
He says, tell him anytime. Okay, Cannon, baby, I love you. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Well, folks, the Dodgers got Mookie Betts and David Price, and Jock Peterson went to the Angels three-way trade.
See, you are a newsman. Breaking news.
Oh, that's so awesome. was so fucking awesome. And he just
couldn't happen.
You know what? I mean, look, to be fair, he's literally explain. You know, he said like there used to be. Yeah, I guess this dumb kid is asking me about the Republic.
Go. Come on. Start the car. We're leaving.
Republicans again. Okay, you know, there used to be Republicans that were moderate. There was Jacob Javits. I don't know, this fucking moron kid who thinks I'm his mentor. Hello, son. Would you like to have a random conversation on my Samsung flip phone? I actually visited the facility in 1997. Oh my God. I can barely even add. The only thing I can add to that is what I perceive to be is the deep psychodynamics at display there from Dave. Just like, I thought that he was my mentor.
What's also funny is
it's okay, I'm being clever. You know, thank God I did stand-up comedy. I know how to roll with this.
You look like you look at the runtime of these episodes, and so this one has 47 minutes, and so that was 3 minutes of that 47. The other ones are way longer. He usually goes way longer with guests. So Larry King gave him less time than typical.
Larry
and
King
talked to his son about
Larry
Mookie Betts.
King is an alpha. He's a legend. CNN are
2 hours with Glenn Beck.
2 hours with Glenn Beck. You have about 45 minutes, and if my son calls about baseball, I'm picking up the phone. All right, let me guess. The Democrats are out of control.
But it was actually
a lot of people are saying mean things to you online, I understand.
Dave should actually feel lucky that that phone call came when it did, because the way Larry King said, I don't know any moderate Republicans, do you? He saved Ruben from actually having to answer that question, which is contrary to everything Ruben's been talking about.
Yeah, but Dave is too much of an idiot to recognize that Larry King's son with the cool baseball stats saved him from making, I mean, I won't say making an ass of himself. He is an ass, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. that two 7-inning games, I wonder if that kid was in minor league baseball, actually.
It sounds like minor league.
Yeah.
That's great. Kid, and at one point he literally said, he tells this kid, you're a star, you get 10 minutes out of opening the fridge, and implicit, like, unlike this guy that I'm literally taking a phone call to talk about baseball trades with, he's sitting there in complete boredom, just like, yeah, well, you know, there was Jacob Javits, and there was moderates, and there was, Jesus Christ, he's a nice kid, but he's not the brightest. And all of a sudden, wait, the Angels got Hernandez. We are definitely at the phase where Dave Rubin is amazing for not the reasons he thinks he's amazing.
Couldn't happen to a nicer host.
He finally became a success through embracing being, you know, just this like embarrassing pseudo intellectual, you know, right-wing asshole, mind-blowingly stupid nonsense. He finally got a little bit of a career going. And now, at this point, through sheer repetition and utter...
So fat. Brendan, you're not fat. It's the shirt. Look at Nate. His true classic is tied around...
inability to form thought and interacting with Larry King, he's legit entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
That Dave Rubin segment is the most entertaining piece of YouTube that I've seen in at least a year. And probably the most entertaining ever since he and Joe Rogan talked about the post office.
No, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when Alex Jones was at that bar and that kid showed up. Like, I think this is the closest I felt to that level of like, I can't believe this is actually happening.
Except to give that kid credit, he had enough energy to make Alex Jones panic.
That was my favorite.
There's a crazy guy at the bar. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Larry King's just like, oh no, just some boring dope asking me about Jacob Javits. I guess he tries to make Star Wars jokes on Twitter and people don't think they're funny. Anyways, it's a doubleheader on Saturday.
Go to Dr. Glenn Beck's assistant.
This kid tracked down my email address and came over and asked me about college campuses or something, and the funniest line he had was that he said he was a stand-up comedian. But anyways, Cameron, I heard that guy has a knuckleball. Is that going to be a problem?
Is he the one that had Tommy John?
I love that he starts talking about his Samsung tour too.
He starts talking about his Samsung
That's
tour.
what's known as a bored interview guest.
Yeah, that is...
So you think everyone's partisan and that's what it's going to be from now on?
Everybody just seems to be in their own tribes. Yeah, exactly, kid. Anyways, speaking of tribes, I visited the Samsung tribe. 1997.
Oh, whoops, look a call.
Did that call. I told my son to call me at the 40-minute mark so I could shave 3 minutes off of this unimaginably boring interview.
I told my assistant to wait until my son actually called to get me out of this stupid thing. I gave my phone before he actually called.
Yeah, but anyways, no hard feelings. In conclusion, people shouldn't make fun of you on Twitter, and things sure are partisan. Okay. It's like the 9% of Larry King that's even paying attention is just sort of like, if I cared, I would ask you why you host Nazis if you're so concerned about partisanship, but I don't care. Keep being you, man. Keep being you, Dave, please.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish.
Vintage Michael, man. Vintage Michael Brooks. And by God, do we miss him. I could binge on Michael Brooks content all day if I had to. If I had my chance, I could just binge. Honest opinion. If I had my chance, I would binge. Just dedicate a whole show to binging on Michael Brooks content. I would do every show binging on Michael, and much respect to his comrades, Matt Leck and David Briscoe. Matt Leck and David Briscoe, who have continued the legacy and life of Mr. Brooks, Michael, and Left Reckoning, which is a fabulous show, a great show, and I love it. Hope you guys too. If you don't know it, go watch it. Left Reckoning, YouTube. I don't know if they're in any other platform, but they're on YouTube. I don't know what episode they're on at this point. I need to catch up on it. So it's about 9:40. It's 9:40. I have 20 minutes left, so not many people in the chat. So I was just doing YouTube videos to kill time. So, like I said, I've talked about everything I need to talk about. I guess I could talk a little bit about Michael. That's okay. I guess I just throw his book up wherever you can get it against the web. I got this, unfortunately, off Amazon. Yes, I went to Jeff Bezos' corporate machine to get this book. If Brett Emmis had a gift card system that was national, then I would have definitely went there. So, but what did he say about David? I actually want to read something about this. Shit. Butterfingers. Okay, hold on. Trying to find where it starts with Dave Rubin. So we can... Okay. It's Dave Rubin as a compare Hitchens, Dawkins, Dennett to Harris. I guess he's talking about Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and David Dennett. Sam Harris, he wrote the IDW new club, which includes failed stand-up comic Dave Rubin as a charter member in the original New York Times piece. Barry Weiss, courteously quotes Rubin when he called himself and the rest of the IDW, quote, just a crew of people trying to have the kind of important conversations that the mainstream won't. If you watch my show, you are undoubtedly reading that quote in the Rubin voice, which should make the experience much more satisfying. Now, Rubin and I exist in the same media ecosystem, hosting YouTube shows and podcasts. In fairness, his show has a larger audience than mine, while my show is the infinitely superior program. I'm the host of TMBS, the Michael Brooks Show, and the co-host of the Majority Report, which is part of the TYT, the Young Turks Network, as was Rubin's show until he dramatically left the left in 2015. My good friend and frequent collaborator Anna Kasparian knew Rubin during his TYT years. The way she tells it, he left the left at least as much as a cynical career move as a genuine ideological shift. I believe her, as do I. Even if you think his turn towards classical liberalism, read half-baked libertarianism, was completely sincere, though here's what anyone who watches his show can confirm for themselves. Dave Rubin doesn't belong to the intellectual anything. He's dumb as a rock. He might as well be a rock to judge by how little he bothers challenging the right-wing guest he has important conversations with on his show. He talks a lot about having high-level conversations about ideas, but in practice, he stares blatantly into space while a parade of crackpots and crypto and not so crypto fascists make ridiculous assertions. His idea of having important conversations certainly doesn't include talking to anyone who would seriously challenge him. He has been dodging debate challenges from the Majority Report's Sam Cedar for years. Doggone it, he was right. My apologies. That's just my Anyway, to get a sense of why he's so afraid of Cedar, check out how he did on in what was supposed to be a friendly chat with the ideological ally, the amiable and IDW line Joe Rogan. On episode 1131 of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rubin rants about the evils of government regulation. He and Rogan start out by agreeing that bakers should not have made cakes for gay people's weddings, fighting over the civil rights implications for legislation. Rubin, as usual, gets a lot of mileage out of being a very gay man himself. The two further agree that left-wing objections to inherited wealth are misguided. But when Rubin says that the government doesn't do anything right, Joe Rogan reaches the point where he can't go along with Rubin's increasingly absurd assertions. Let's see. Do they do the post office well? No. What do they do well? They do the post office pretty good, actually. But guess what? If the post office is closed tomorrow, it'd be all right. You'd still get mail. Amazon would know it wouldn't. It would suck. No, it wouldn't. Amazon would pick. You'd have to send things through UPS. It would cost a lot more. It wouldn't, though. Competition would start kicking in between UPS and FedEx and Amazon and drones and blah, blah, blah. And DHL. Okay. I'm not saying, and then they say, Rubin does. I'm not saying these things have to be eliminated tomorrow. I'm not really even calling for them to be eliminated. But just generally, what problem would you have? Everything you're building right here, right now. What do you want the government to tell you how to do all these things and have all the regulations that you got to require like this? Regulations like that for construction are important, though. You got to make sure people don't do stupid shit. Like you don't have the power lines and your water lines. But I would put those on the builders, though. They would want to build things that are good. That's not true. They can put corners all the time. You have regulation when it comes to construction methods, or people are going to get fucked. They cut corners when when there are regulations anyway. They do a lot more if there weren't regulations. You go to third world countries and look at construction methods. They're fucking dangerous. That's why schools collapse on kids. Oh, yeah. Just some of the many, many examples. Just one of the many, many examples why this gentleman holding his book up, Michael Brooks, is so missed. And sorry for the close to my face. Why he is so missed, and why I long for that Dave Rubin impression. For the heck of it, while we're killing time, it's almost 9:50. I'll just do this. Dave Rubin, Joe Rogan, and Brooks. Dave Rubin, that. Okay. This is just an example of, I actually screen sharing it, but this is just a prime example of Dave Rubin's illiterate, for lack of a better word, stupidity, and why most of the people that he's so aligned himself with, including Joe Rogan, have now abandoned him.
What problem would you, everything you're building here right now, right? Do you want the government to tell you how to do all these things and all the regulations that you got to have your electric thing this far from this and like all
the regulations like that for construction are important though. You do have to make sure that people don't do stupid shit.
But
make sure you don't
generally,
have a power line that's near a water line. There's a lot of.
But I would put most of that on the builders though. They want to build things that are good. Now I get it.
That's not true. Listen, people
people are going to build
corners all the time. Like you have to have regulations when it comes to construction methods, or people are going to get fucked.
They cut corners when there are regulations anyway.
They do. They would cut a lot more if there weren't regulations.
I'm not
If you go
totally-
to third world countries and look at construction methods, they're fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
That's why schools collapse on kids in foreign countries sometimes. Like,
Well, I'm not telling you that I'm against all regulation, period. That's
Okay.
that's where I said intellectually I like that argument because you could make I think you can make a very sound argument that competition would force people to do better work. Like if you're a plumber, you have a vested interest in doing the best plumbing job you can so that people will rate you on Yelp so that you will get more work. You don't have a vested interest in cutting corners. Now you might, right? You're going to push it as much as you can to save as much time and energy and money as you can. But once you go over that edge, yeah, you don't want to be known as the guy that you tightened something too much so that you flooded the house, or when you're building a house.
you're thinking logically though. When people fuck things up and short things and do things terrible, they're not thinking logically.
But
They're
I don't think
just
it's the government.
shitheads.
I don't think it's the government that they're like, the government gave me this regulation, so that's why I'm going to do it right.
Well, if
You know
they
what I
didn't
mean?
have any regulations, there'd be no incentive whatsoever to do it right.
No, there
If they
would be
knew
an
that-
incentive.
If they knew there were no inspectors, no one was going to check their stuff and make sure that their stuff was up to code. Listen, man, I was in construction my whole life. My dad was an architect.
Yeah.
I've been in construction since I was a little kid. You fucking need regulations. These guys, a lot of people that are in construction, they'll do whatever the fuck they can to make money, and it's not good for the people that have the house because they might have that house for 5-10 years before that problem manifests itself. The people who are establishing these codes are licensed builders or people that have been involved in construction for a long fucking time, and they know what's safe and what's not safe. That's why those codes exist. It exists to protect the consumers. You can't just protect the consumers through the marketplace because
So
it
I'm not
takes a
calling
long
for-
time for these problems to become a real issue, and these problems could potentially damage everybody in the neighborhood. It's not just going to affect the person on this one lot. Like if a fire starts, it burns all the houses in the neighborhood, or if a flood happens and it floods everyone downhill, it's a real problem. Like you have to
Absolutely.
be real careful with construction.
I get it. And, my dad wasn't in construction, so I'm not privy to like all of that, the little stuff. But I genuinely believe that as a general level, people have a vested interest in, especially now because of phones and apps and Yelp and all of those things, doing good work, because that's how you will get more work. You're never going to remove the people who will do shoddy, shitty, malicious shit.
But you can keep them at bay with regulation. I think
so. This is where I say you can have some regulation.
Educated regulation. People who actually understand what's going on, and make sure that someone doesn't do something stupid with a power line, or someone do something stupid with the way they constructed main beams, where they're just subject to collapse. Like, that's important, because most people buying a house don't know what the fuck they're looking for. Most people getting a house built, they have no idea about construction methods, and they need someone to inspect things and make sure that it's up to code. That's why code exists. It's very important.
Yeah, so I'm not totally with you on that. Like, I do think most of it, probably 90% of it, would be who has the most vested interest to build a good house. It's the builder, because he wants more work. He doesn't want the house to collapse, because then he'll be out of work.
I'm telling you,
man. I got you though. I get it that
these
it will
guys
not
are
always.
Jerk-offs.
Yeah,
there's a lot
so
of them that are
construction may be a
jerk-offs.
specific thing. You know what I mean?
It's a dangerous thing too, because projects where I had to explain to people and go through
that their job would be that you can give to people to freely do what they think is right. I think generally they will. Like, again, I get it. There's going to be some real shitty construction people out there.
Oh, man. I mean, that is the most cringeworthy thing ever to watch, but yet it's enjoyable. Like, I'm not like... And then this happened. And then remember, this happened. When somebody asked him whether or not, somebody asked him on, I think it was on his show, when he go on the podcast, took him on his book.
Gentlemen, how are you, buddy?
What's up, brother?
Dude, I haven't seen you. The last time we saw each other was just now.
Post office closed tomorrow. You will be all right. You could possibly have in your life forever. The government doesn't do anything good.
Right.
Name one problem you could possibly have in your life, Joe Rogan, that you'd be like, get the government to solve this. Did they do the post office well? No. What do they do well?
They do the post office pretty good, actually.
But guess what? If the post office closed tomorrow, it would be all right. You'd still get mail. Amazon would pick. No, it wouldn't. Amazon would pick that up.
Through UPS, it would cost a lot more.
It wouldn't, though. Competition would start kicking in, and between UPS and FedEx and Amazon and drones and blah blah blah, and DHL. What problem would you? Everything you're building here right now, right? Do you want the government to tell you how to do all these things and all the regulations that you gotta have?
One more time.
Electric thing this far from to tell you how to shell? What problem? UPS and
so it costs a lot more.
It wouldn't, though. Competition would start kicking in. Between UPS and FedEx and Amazon and drones and blah 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 and DHL. What problem would you? Everything you're building here right now, right? Do you want the government to tell you how to do all these things and all the regulations that you got to have your electric thing this far from this? And all
the regulations like that for construction are important, though. You do have to make sure that people don't do stupid shit.
But
make sure you don't have a power line that's near a water line. There's a lot of.
But I would put most of that on the builders, though. They want to build things that are good. Now, I get it.
That's not true. Listen, people
people are going to build
corners all the time. Like, you have to have regulations when it comes to construction methods, or people are going to get fucked.
They cut corners when there are regulations anyway.
Or people that have been involved in construction. So who takes care of that? Who regulates that?
Like this line of thinking, there has to be some.
Okay, you high?
Yeah. But I actually think in the grand scheme, agreements on stuff, as do I, actually in green stuff, by the way. So Candace, who I watched the show, and I know you guys definitely have disagreements on stuff, as do I do when it comes not only to politics, but tactics sometimes and stuff, but I really do like her. Look, she's causing a massive rift in the black community, and you can see it in the numbers. Black male support for Trump doubled. It was at 11%. It's now at 22%. No, well, it's Kanye. Kanye was the wrecking machine, but right. I think in the grand scheme of things, Candace is much bigger. I really believe that in terms of because I think she could be a direct line to all of the political parts of this if she decides to go that route. Because I think she could run for Senate or
what?
Yeah.
Are you okay? You high?
Yeah,
Did you get high
I'm not
before you got
high.
here?
I'm not high
What
today.
happened?
I'm not. I'm only smoking maybe once a week on Sundays, and now
Only
I'm
on
on tour,
Sundays.
so I'm not really at all. But
Maybe I'll spark up a joint and have you reconsider what you just said.
you can smoke a joint, and maybe I'll reconsider.
You said
it.
you watched the podcast I did with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I watch. I don't know, maybe at least an hour and a half of it or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Why?
Why what?
Well, I don't know. Why are you saying it that way? Yeah. Why?
Why what? I did with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I watch. I don't know, maybe at least an hour and a half of it or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Why?
And then this.
Why what?
Well, I don't know. Why are you saying it that way? Will I go on Rogan's podcast? I asked him, and our PR people asked him about a bajillion times to go on for my book.
Times.
We did not. PR people asked him about a bajillion times to go on for my book. We did not get a response as far as I know, so I don't know what happened there. It's a little weird for me to say that publicly. I don't know what happened.
I mean, just really, folks. I mean, the guy's such a rube. No pun intended. I'm referring to Dave Rubin. The guy is such, I don't know. I'm just saying a lot of things, not a lot of positive things about him. I think he's a terrible person. I think, all right, well, that about wraps it up. It's 9:58, so I'm going to end the stream now. Again, coming up on Sunday afternoon, at 12 Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have Charlie RC Roberts from Photosia Academy on Substack talk about his latest article on Nathan Robinson and Lupins, because that was his most recent article. Again, hopefully to have Carly Kushoffman on, as hopefully as a Friday night segment on UFOs and aliens as part of a way to kind of try some new things to, again, make this show interesting. I know that I'm 5 episodes in, but I want it to be more than just me looking and talking about stuff on the internet. Just pulling up articles, pulling up YouTube stuff and talking over it. It's a good thing to do. I mean, it's real nice. I mean, I'm just trying, I want to kind of, again, expand and make the show more interesting as I go along. So, thanks for all who watched. Thanks to who will be watching. The one person on Twitch, and I think I got a person on YouTube that watched. Thanks to the chat. My sister in the chat, who's a teacher and is a progressive, is a Bernie Sanders supporter, is supporting teacher unions. She commented on the video while I was using the laboratory about the Taylor guitars and how they now own that company. So she says, "What a great company, we need more like them." Sis, I can't agree with them. Again, she's a leftist, socialist, Bernie Sanders supporter. I don't know if she's a socialist. She's a Bernie Sanders supporter. Just want to be fair. Hope you don't hear me, sis. Hope you don't hurt me, sis, for saying that. Let's see. Obviously, again, thanks again for watching. Catch the show Monday to Friday, 7 to 10, Twitch. Read me on Substack, TJRS.substack.com. Hoping to blog a little more. I know I've been kind of laxed about it lately, trying to kind of balance this blog at the same time, keep it my writing. Of course, social media. Follow me on Twitch, obviously Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. And if you can, donate to Patreon at patreon.com/TJRS. Give what you can, or if you can't, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying, anyways, to keep the show going. And of course, like and subscribe as I depart for the evening. It is Labor Day, Labor Day weekend, so be safe out there. Be nice to yourselves, your neighbors, kind to others. Left is best. Rest in power, Michael Brooks. Rest in power, Ed Esmer. And we'll see you one day.